Peace, love, divine light, Southwest Georgia, 229. Our intro by King Cotton, Do It for the Nine. And that whole ain't no party like an Albany party is what's going on right now because we're talking about the good life city and what's happening in and around town. All right. And so if you don't know anything else about Voices Radio, know that we're going to do our best to bring you valuable opportunities that inspire collaborations to elevate society, and that being the heart and soul of what makes society a society, all right? Because oftentimes we get caught up in, oh, society this and society that, but we don't actually see the heart and soul of the people who represent this quote unquote society. So today we have a guest in the studio who is about being necessary, and bringing about necessary changes and impacting action in our city. So I want to get to these public service announcements quickly so that we can get to business, okay? So this Thursday, May 16th, here in Albany, Georgia, the Sherrod Institute is hosting their annual Farm Field Day. It is focused on climate smart agriculture. And there will be somebody special from the USDA here to talk about what's happening in and around the state. So if you have questions, if you are a landowner, if you are a small farmer or rancher, if you are a disadvantaged minority farmer, this is most definitely the place for you to be. 801 Old Pretoria Road. Registration starts at 9 a.m. Pre-registration was required. However, guess what? We're not going to stop you from coming and getting this information, even if you don't get your plate. All right. So, and then on Friday, following this amazing event, we have another Utilities Community Town Hall meeting taking place at 2310 West Gordon Avenue here in Albany, Georgia. Again, this is going to be Friday, May 17th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. So please be a friend, tell a friend to get up, get out, and get active, because if you know, like I know, utilities is most definitely a thing that needs to be addressed in our city among other issues. Okay. And then we have a Juneteenth celebration coming up on the 15th and 16th of June at 2452 West Gordon Avenue. That's Old E Park. Yes, we are celebrating Juneteenth both Saturday and Sunday. So come out and be a part of those festivities. Mark your calendar. We know July is a ways away. Nevertheless, this amazing event is one for the entire family, okay? So if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you haven't seen the flyers, haven't heard the promos, Summer Splash 5K is on its way, all right? It is going to be taking place the last weekend in July. There will be loads of fun and activities for the whole family. So do not leave the kids, because if nothing else in our community, we have to start fostering familyhood and familyship. And that means including the kids when we talk about community engagement and activities. All right. And Summer Splash is doing that, and it's getting us up and active with the 5K walk run from Mary Young Cummings Park to the MLK Junior Park. All right. And if you don't know, that's the walking trail on MLK. Learn something new every day. Last week, I learned that it was the MLK Junior Park. All right. So do know that we have historical landmarks in and around our city, and we should most definitely do our part to utilize them and keep them clean and safe. All right. So without further ado, I was so glad to get the text message and to find out that the sister Elizabeth Gibson answered our call, like, for people to join us on air. So, Miss Gibson, thank you so much for being here. How you feeling?
I'm feeling wonderful. You know, the pollen in Albany is serious. But I'm still here and I'm excited. And thank you for having me today.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for being here. And so, if you do not know who Miss Elizabeth Gibson is, we're going to give her opportunity to tell us a little bit about herself from her own perspective, and then we'll get into it. All right. So, Miss Gibson, who are you? Where are you from? What do you represent? What do you stand for?
Well, for those who don't know me, my name is Elizabeth Givens Gibson. I was born and raised here in Albany, Georgia. Most people know me as Coach Gibbons' daughter, or Dr. Gibbons' daughter, or Chip's little sister.
Right, right, right.
But I come to everybody today as a servant leader, ready to serve my community in the capacity of district attorney. Like I said, I was born and raised here. Went to Dougherty Comprehensive High School, the unsinkable Albany State University.
Go Rams.
And then I graduated from the University of Georgia School of Law.
Yes.
But the thing is, I didn't take the ordinary route like other people would do, go from law school and then just matriculate into becoming a lawyer. I became an educator. Tried not to follow my mom and dad's footsteps,
but you couldn't deny
hey, it is what it is, you know. And when you have a purpose, you have to know your purpose in any given season. So that was my purpose in being an educator. And I worked my way up the ladder as an instructional coach, and then went to Mitchell County as a curriculum and instructional director. And during the pandemic, I said, you know what? I went to law school, and my passion is law because I saw how people were being treated unfairly and unjustly. And so I took the bar exam and became barred in 2020. And my first job was actually in the DA's office. So I'm a former prosecutor. And as a prosecutor, I started in state court with misdemeanors, but by the time I left, I had 2 state court caseloads, a juvenile caseload, a felony caseload. I worked with all of the asset forfeitures that came in the Dougherty County area. I put my hands on everything because I wanted to be aware of what was going on in the DA's office. But now I'm a defense attorney with Brimberry, Kaplan, and Brimberry. And now I see how the DA's office affects not only itself or the criminal justice system, but it affects accused, the defendants, it affects the victims, it affects the community as a whole. And I just think we need a change, and I'm that change.
Okay, all right. So for those listeners who are just, how do we say, we'll say oblivious, a little ignorant to the judicial system and how these processes work, right? So when you say you're a former prosecutor, what is the role or what is the difference in a prosecutor and a defense attorney, a prosecuting attorney and a defense attorney?
That's a great question because most people don't understand that. As a matter of fact, while I was a prosecutor, most people thought I was their attorney. But when you do your job right and you just do right by people, then they know that you have their best interests at heart.
Right.
But as a prosecutor, the prosecutor actually looks at the facts of the case that is given by whatever arresting agency, whether it be APD, DCP, whoever made that arrest, to see whether there's enough facts to prove beyond a reasonable doubt each element of a charge to a specific crime. The prosecutor actually has a lot of power in that aspect because they determine whether someone goes to trial, whether they are charged fully with the crime, or whether there's not enough evidence to be pursued. But on the opposite end, a defense attorney is just like it says. They are waiting on the prosecutor to give evidence, whatever evidence they have to them, so that they can see their plan of attack to try to assist their client in defending their rights. I'm all about just defending the Constitution. We all know people that have done things wrong, but if they're doing things wrong and you are taking away their constitutional rights, you need to do that in a way that doesn't infringe on their constitutional rights and they get their fair due process.
Okay. So when we talk about you becoming or running, we didn't put it out there, right?
Oh,
we just gonna speak it into existence.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the role and responsibility of the actual district attorney, right? So this is coming off of the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia's website. And they say that each district attorney is an elected constitutional officer who is part of the judicial branch of Georgia state government, right? So the district attorney represents the state of Georgia in the trial and appeal of felony criminal cases in the Superior Court for the judicial circuit and delinquency cases in the juvenile courts. The district attorney is also the legal advisor to the grand jury and performs other duties prescribed by law. All right. So, being that this says that the district attorney represents the state, right? And we know this, right, to be true. And so, when we talk about the DA, and then we talk about defense attorneys, and oftentimes our people get public defenders, right? Because we don't necessarily have the funds for you as a regular attorney, a paid attorney, right? In the position that you're currently in. And so when we talk about public defenders working out of the district attorney's office, right? Or for the district attorney, who is also a representative of the state of Georgia. So how, if you're a representative of the state, can you in turn help to make those changes and bring about those how do we say implementations where you're actually working for the people?
Well, all you have to do is do right by people. Do right by people. And when you said that, when you were talking about people not having the funds to pay me, the cool thing about it is that me being a defense attorney, although I am a private attorney, I have taken a conflict contract, which allows me to be a public defender as well. So I want people to understand that the cool thing about the Dougherty County Judicial Circuit, we have some phenomenal defense attorneys that are public defenders here in Dougherty County, and they are standing up and fighting daily for individual rights. But it has to be a collaboration. You have to collaborate. It's all about talking across the table and understanding that yes, crimes are committed, but what is the best way to hold people accountable, but allow them to become productive citizens in the end?
I agree. And you talked about transparency, and transparency is one of the key factors that you're running on, right? And so definition says to allow light to pass through so that objects behind can be distinctly seen, right? So when we talk about transparency between you and the community and what these laws and these platforms and actually being able to be educated, right, on what your civil laws look like, what your human rights look like. What are some plans of action as to how you in this seat can help to bring about education to the community as a whole?
Well, what I do is pick up where I left off. Before I left the DA's office, I was the only assistant district attorney that created the record restriction clinic. I I started the record restriction clinic alongside with our president at that time of the Dougherty Circuit Bar Association. And what record restriction is, most people remember it as expungement. But record restriction, most people don't understand that even if you've been acquitted of your crime, a crime has been dismissed, or it has been null-pros by a prosecutor, it's still on your criminal history. So it affects you. And we all know that, yes, there are a plethora of jobs out here, but if people take a look at your background, that determines whether they hire you or not. And so I implemented that before I left, a record restriction clinic. That first clinic, we had over 500 people there. And I was able to assist them in getting a whole bunch of things off of their criminal histories. And I still get thank you cards now because they're getting opportunities that they had been waiting 10, 15, 20 years because they did not know about record restriction. But the cool thing about it is that there are already systems in place where all we have to do is give people the information and they can go and do it themselves.
Okay.
We like to try to hide the 8 ball on things. If we open ourselves and make ourselves transparent so that everybody will know and have access to information, then we won't have big eyes and little U's. I'm not about that.
We got something from the people, Adam.
Well, now I wanted to ask, like, shoot, so what does that look like? So how do you plan to create that system where there's transparency? How will people be able to access this information and stuff?
Well, with the record restriction, there's already a technological platform available. We just have to purchase it. So it's a simple fix. We're just not doing it. But the second thing is you educate your community. You have those town hall meetings. You come on radio stations and talk about those different opportunities that are available. You don't wait until election time before people see your face.
Right.
People see me in the community all the time. I'm at basketball games. I'm at football games. I'm at the robotics
competition.
I'm I was at the art show at Dougherty the other day.
Right.
But the thing is, you have to make yourself accessible, make yourself available, to the community so that you can be approachable.
Right. So so that brings me into another thing, right? So it's easy to say like we're engaged and we're committed to the community now, right? However, once you're actually in this seat, we know that it takes a lot of your time, right? Away from actually being able to be as active as you might be now. So what are some plans for you to maintain that community engagement and that community involvement?
Well, as I stated earlier, being a former prosecutor, I had a juvenile caseload. I had 2 state court caseloads. I had a felony caseload. I was assisting other ADAs indict their cases.
Yeah.
And I had all asset forfeitures. It can be done.
Okay.
I mean, it can be done.
If you're willing and able, it can be done, right?
It can be done.
Most definitely. And so when we talk about our juveniles, right, and we talk about the lack of experience or exposure that they have right now in our city that leads to, what do we say, the rebellion and the mischief and what leads into criminal activity, right? What are some things that the DA can do outside of, what do we say, waiting for them to get to court to remedy some of these things? Even when we talk about adult cases, right? And we know that there are a lot of factors that play into this, right? Whether it's a lack of job availability, right? Like you stated, you could already have a criminal case and now you want to work, you can work, but you have this on your record that's preventing you from being able to work. That's another stressor, right? You have children who don't have recreational outlets and they're creating extra stressors, right? You have medical needs that aren't being met, whether it's mental health or other physical, ailments. So how do the courts work in collaboration with these other entities to help create a decline in the number of cases that we're seeing? Because I know, like, if we have a decline in criminal activity, then that means less work for you. Nevertheless, it means a better city overall for our people.
Right. Well, you said it. It's a collaboration. We have to stop working on an island. We've got to stop just waiting on cases to come into the DA's office and try to fix it. We've got to stop being reactive. If we're proactive in everything, and the cool thing about it is that, yes, let's clear the elephant out the room. Mr. Edwards has more legal experience than I do as a living human being. Point blank, period.
Right.
Can't take that away from him.
Right. I mean,
right. And he's been practicing law for 41 years.
Right.
I am not even.
You've been in.
Right. I'm not even 40.
Right.
But here's the thing. The great thing about it is that experience is not about how long you've been in a position.
Let's talk about it.
Experience is what you have learned, the skills and abilities you have acquired throughout the course of a transition. And so I'm a former educator. So I've been there, done that. I know what my kids are, the hiccups and the hangups that they're going through.
Right. as well as their parents, right?
And the parents.
And you were on the curriculum board, like
right. So I know my community, and I know our pitfalls. And the thing is, with the games, let's talk about the game. The games used to have a standard. They would wait till you were about 14 years old, 15 years old, making decisions on your own.
Right.
They don't do that anymore. They start recruiting when you're 6, 7, 8 years old. And that's the shift. That's the dynamic shift. Right now we have gang leaders who are 14 that are telling 21 and 22-year-olds what to do.
Right.
We think it's a problem. We know it's a problem.
Right. But they don't see it.
They don't see that problem.
Right.
And it's because the culture has shifted. And if by chance you don't shift with the culture, you are oblivious to what is going on in the community.
Yes. And she made me think about the show from last week when we talk about professing professionals, right? And how oftentimes, because you're younger or you seem to quote unquote have less experience on paper, that you aren't qualified. However, this brother's been in office since 2008 unopposed. Like, nobody has even thought to be like, hey man, it's about time for you to move along, like just off of the principle that you've been there forever. And we have not seen any progress. So why not give somebody else a chance? And being a woman, I could easily fall into like, oh, she being emotional, she's a woman. But sometimes you need a female's eye, a female's perspective to be able to actually bring about the change and balance that is required. Because too much testosterone is not necessarily, especially when the operation and the execution, right, is lacking. And you talk about two other things on your platform. You talk about efficiency, right? And to be efficient means to achieve maximum productivity with minimum wasted effort or expense. All right. So when I think about efficiency, right, and listening to you speak, I'm seeing you trying to maximize the productivity when it comes to why we have people sitting in county for a year, 2 years, waiting to go to trial. Why we have young people who get arrested as teenagers, but they don't actually go to trial until they're adults. And now, like, this is a whole nother component that we're facing. So how do what does that look like when we talk about what the DA office needs to decrease this workload that is just hanging out there, right? This caseload of old cases, or all of these, what do we say, unsolved cases. And even with the gangs, right? We know gangs are a problem. We get it. Nevertheless, when you have a young person who is not affiliated and just happens to be, in the midst, but now we are being coerced right into saying, oh, well, yeah, I'm a gang member. I guess I meet the definition, right? When you start throwing out colorful words. So now it's like we're playing mind games with our people. So how, as a woman, right, do we combat this whole notion of a female being in this leadership role as well as being youthful?
Okay. Well, you said a whole bunch of stuff that I can dissect. But here's the thing. When we talk about gangs, we must understand that being a part of a gang is not a crime. Did y'all know that?
Yeah, I mean, the police is a gang, the fire department is a gang, the military, the church. I mean,
being a part of the gang is not the crime. It's you doing something illegal to push or move yourself higher in esteem in that particular organization. That's the crime. So we have to educate our children about that. But second of all, we know we have a huge case, a huge backlog. We know that there are over 2,500 cases just sitting unsolved. But
wait a minute, hold 2,500,
and that was the last. That was the last count.
Wow.
And we have to be efficient and maximize our efforts by following the mandate of our Superior Court judge, which is, dealing with the high crimes, the murders, the aggravated assaults. But what people don't understand is that, did you know that 90% of cases do not go to trial?
I didn't know.
90%. And that's lowballing.
I was about to say, what we doing? We playing out.
Right. Usually it's the 95% of cases that usually never make it to trial. So that means our backlog is there because people are not having those intellectual conversations. People are not talking across the table.
See,
wow.
That is the underlying issue. It's not the fact that, we need another judge where we have so many cases that need to go to trial. That's not the issue. The issue is that we're not opening our mouths, having those conversations on the front end. Do you know, yes, we've been having a lot of murders and aggravated assaults and things of that nature. But we have a lot of theft by shoplifting.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of criminal damage to property where baby mama got mad and keyed a car, and it turned into a felony because she keyed too much and the paint job was over $500. Those are simple things that we don't need to brush under the rug, but we have to hold people accountable for. But we can do it in a timely manner. That's the efficiency portion that I'm talking about. So if we maximize, start from top to bottom as mandated, but also go from bottom to top, those cases that are just sitting there. Remember, I told you, I probably didn't tell you this, but when I got my state court caseload, there were 500 cases sitting in boxes that had not been touched. 500. Not including the cases that were in drawers that had been accused, but they had not gone to trial. In 60 days, I had accused all 500 of those cases in the box. So it can be done. And remember, I told you before I left, I had all of those caseloads. I had cleared 2 state caseloads, which was 500 apiece. I cleared my drawer down to about 30 cases. I had a whole juvenile caseload that I was still working with. Now, juvenile is a beast by itself because not only do you have crimes, but you also have delinquency, you have chins, you have truancy, you have all of this other stuff that goes on in juvenile court. Then I was assisting 2 other assistant district attorneys indict their cases. That was 150 cases right there by itself, not including my own felony caseload. Not including all of the asset forfeitures. Now, asset forfeitures are when, when drug busts occur, there's always guns, cars, money, things like that.
Houses, whatever,
right, that asset. So I had to deal with all of that as well. So all I'm saying is, it can be done. That's all I'm saying.
Right, given the opportunity in the right person in the office, it can happen.
Right.
So I wanted to ask real quick, like lawsuits against the city, lawsuits against the city and the county, you got to deal with those too. And so how do you plan to manage those? How do you, because everybody in Albany know everybody. These relationships be very murky. How do you plan to, I guess, deal with all that? Because I just heard about another old man that just got killed by the police. By the car pinned him or whatever. He hit the bus and all this other crazy junk. Did you hear about that? You know about that?
No.
You know about that?
No.
Apparently the police was responding to a robbery in progress, hit a school bus, injured some kids, and then pinned a 67-year-old man against the pole. Yeah, this happened just a couple days ago, apparently somewhere, 8th Avenue somewhere. And the old man died. And so now, you best believe a lawsuit's coming, a few lawsuits.
Yeah.
So like, how do we deal with that?
And well, the thing about it is that the city has a city attorney and an assistant city attorney that deals with those particular situations. And the county also has a county attorney and assistant county attorney that deals with those aspects of governance. So with the DA's office, we're representing the state. And we're representing the state on some civil issues, but majority of them are criminal issues.
Gotcha. Okay. Give me food on that. All right.
So I know oftentimes, right, the role of the DA is to bring about the fullest, right? Like we gonna get you with the fullest extent, right? And you even said it, to the fullest extent of the law, like within reasonable, as long as we have reasonable evidence, right? So with that being said, sometimes, and this is just me on the outside looking in, right? Not always does it appear that the crime actually fits the punishment that is being assigned. So, how do you plan to bring about more, how do we say, balanced punishment for these crimes, especially when, like he said, we have relationships in the city and we have people who I'm sure at some point will be at your neck, at your head, trying to get to your shoulders, you know what I'm saying? With these things. So, how, and I know that you worked in this field for a while, long enough, to know that there could be opposition and there could be these battles that you'll have to face, right? So, being that this is mental health or awareness month, right? What are some tools or techniques that you have or plan to use to help you when it comes to maintaining self-care in your own mental well-being?
Well, you always have to take time for yourself, because if you don't take time for yourself, who else will? Um, I attend church regularly. I play kickball, basketball, softball, bowling. So I enjoy life. And if you don't enjoy life, life will start lifing on you.
Yes.
And I'm a firm believer of that. So with that in mind, yes, you have a job. I do have a job as a defense attorney. Now I have a job.
Right.
But my job ends at 5 o'clock, and I have to pick me and my family up. And some people will understand that, others won't.
Right. All right. So speaking of family life, right? So I think you just gave us a great example of balance, right? When we talk about work ending at 5 o'clock and we are focused on family. So throughout your journey, right, from educator to law school to the DA's office to, being a private attorney, what has family balance looked like? And have there been times when you felt like you weren't doing as great of a job as you would like to balance those things?
I mean, you're going to always feel like that, because that's the attack of the enemy. Right. He attacks your mind first, right? I mean, that's how he tries to get to you. But what you have to do is when you start feeling that way, you step back and reset.
Right.
Right now, I do have a therapist where I can talk to him and converse about things that I'm dealing with, those emotions that I'm not understanding. You do have to have a sounding board. Before my parents passed away, my mom was my sounding board. She was my black hole. I could tell her everything, and I knew it wasn't going anywhere, but she would tell me the right thing to do. But lastly, which is the most important, is that I don't depend on my own thought process. I depend on God. He leads and guides me. Most people who are politicians, they try to shy away from the whole God thing and, higher beings.
Right.
But I can't do this by myself. I cannot turn the DA's office around. I cannot complete this mission without a higher being.
Right. I agree. And so for individuals who are listening, right? Because there are a lot of people who work different jobs, right? And there are a lot of people who want to see change brought about or want to even be the ones to bring about that change, but they don't know where to start or how to start, right? So what is some motivation or inspiration that you would give to someone, whether they want to run for DA against you next time, you know what I'm saying? Or they want to run for a school board seat or whatever elected office, it might be, but they just don't know, like they have reservations. what are some things that you overcame, and what are, again, some motivations or inspirations for them to actually take that leap?
Well, the first thing, what I'll say, what I did, I saw those things that I thought needed to be changed in the DA's office, and I addressed them. You go to the source, the person that can fix it. You give them that opportunity. And when you see that there has not been a change, or they become complacent in what they're doing, then you go back to the drawing board. If I'm going to be the change I want to see, I need to be a consistent and stable change. And I know that's oxymoronic right now, but consistent and stable, meaning that, yes, this is the change that I want to see, but I can be that change on a consistent basis. So in order for me to do that, again, I dove into everything there was in the DA's office to figure out what was going on in the DA's office. I learned everything there was to learn, and asked questions as a defense attorney. And I'm also an interim judge in municipal court in Cuthbert, Georgia. So I see from the bench how the DA's office and the defense attorneys work together, or the lack thereof, and how it turns out for our community. So you have to do research. You just can't jump out there and say, hey, I want to be a rocket scientist, and you've never acquired those skills and abilities. So that's where that experience comes from. You have to get that experience.
Okay.
You currently serving as a judge in Cuthbert?
Right, I saw that, and I was going to get to it, but I think she kind of segued into it, and how we get the DA's office, or to work with the judges who are actually, or what those partnerships and relationships look like and can look like.
Well, it's open communication. All you have to do is talk. That's with any relationship. All you have to do is talk. And with I do believe that our criminal justice system, our judges are a bit frustrated with the DA's office because of the slow pace and how things are moving with different cases, where they call in jurors and they have to send them home. You got to think about that. That's economics. That's $25 per person. And yes, it doesn't sound like a lot, right? It doesn't sound like a lot, but 25 times 60, right? And they come 4 days, and they still don't get selected as a juror, or the case gets continued. It's a waste of money. Now, that's just one courtroom. Not to mention we have 4 now.
Right.
So 60 times the 25 times 4 in 1 day. That's just that's just the jurors.
Right.
Now let's talk about the inmates. Let's go to the inmates. The economics about the inmates will tell you. I'll give you a roundabout number. It takes about $50 a day to house an inmate that is healthy. Now imagine all the mental health issues we have. Diabetes, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, because everybody taking pills and diabetic medicine right now because we're in the South, right? But I said $50 for a healthy individual.
Right. And I'm out here with a toothache. I'm like, why do I need to commit a crime to get some mental assistance? But that's where it have you for real, because and people laugh about 3 hots in a cot, but when you think about it, to some people it sounds real sweet. It's like, oh well, I'm taken care of. Like, they frames look better than mine. Like, I see it even. Right. Like, how y'all out there? How y'all in there living like that? And it's people out here like in the free world don't know, so I get it. I do. And then when you're like us, right? We're thinking about these things, but then we have industry, right? And we have corporations, and like Dougherty County Blaylock is not like the end stop if they get actually charged and sent off. Yeah. Right. So then now we talk about privatization of prisons and like the whole corporate aspect of the monetization. So it's like, oh, $50 a day, you know, for a year is okay, cause we finna make a whole bunch of money on the back end off of them. So it's like, no, it's just all corrupt, you feel me? And so it's like listening to you and having you here where we don't feel like there's any hope, right? Or any justice for our justice system. It says maybe there's some hope, you know what I'm saying? Maybe all of the rain ain't urine, you know what I'm saying? Maybe just somewhere there's a ray of sunshine for, you know, even if it's just here in the Good Life City, if we can make a start here, you know, and it started to sprinkle abroad, like at least we can say Elizabeth Gibson came in and she was consistent and she was committed to being effective, efficient, and transparent with the people so that we at least now have a more educated community. We have a community that is more aware and able to make informed decisions a little bit better. Right. And who knows, maybe all of these teams can come together and figure out how we can work together as individual entities, yet collaborating for the betterment of the Good Life City, you know, because we talk about making America great again, but can we at least make Albany good again, you know?
And that's so necessary where all of us are working together. My leadership mantra, in any capacity that I've been, whether it's the vice president of GABWA, the president of the Dougherty Circuit Bar Association, the president of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Right. My leadership mantra has always been, if everybody is lifting at the same time, going in the same direction, it's really not that heavy. And so with that being said, if you're lifting in your capacity and you're lifting in your capacity and I'm lifting in mine and we have the same focus, the same drive, it's really not that heavy. It's only when I lift and I look at you and like, oh, you're not as lifting as much as I'm lifting. Or I wonder what you're doing. Or I'm trying to help you or assist you in a capacity that I'm not built to lift. So if we all work together, and I truly believe that
many hands make light work.
Right. That's the mantra. We just got to get back to that community feel. Right. Where we're not pointing fingers anymore, like, oh, well, the teacher's not doing what they're supposed to do in the classroom, or the parents are working 2 or 3 jobs. Why? Because the economy is bad. We already know that. We know kids are raising themselves, but that's nothing new. Right. Because when I was going to school,
it was the same thing.
People were raising themselves. Like, so why are we acting that something is new under the sun? There's nothing new under the sun. It's just the fact
we choose to address it.
We have not addressed the issue. That's our problem. So if like with me, I know that I am built and I have equipped myself to become the district attorney of Dougherty County. And I have already resolved, if I win, God has prepared me. But if I lose, God is protecting me. So I've already resolved in my spirit. It is well in my soul.
That way. What you got, Adam? You got some comments over there?
Well, no comments. People have been on and off, but I wanted to ask, but we near the end now. We had 45-minute mark. But just different laws on the books. I always ask. This is always my thing. Are there laws on the books that make it actually harder for you to do your job? Are there some laws that you feel could be changed or just completely taken off that would alleviate your caseload, help you to actually be able to perform your position better?
Well, there are some laws that kind of hinder DAs, but here's the thing: if we create those partnerships and speak to our legislature,
there you go,
and show them, like prime example, we have on the books now about statutory rape, 14 years old or under. And if you're 17, then you can be charged with statutory rape. But the bad thing about it is that in our education system, they're not divided like it used to be. You know, ninth graders used to be all 14-year-olds,
in the whole
snotty nose,
class by itself, right?
Yeah. But now it's mixed and mingled. I went to an elementary school the other day, and there was a 13-year-old in elementary school.
And that's what I was about to say too.
Oh, okay.
Because they failed, because clearly there's a breakdown in the system.
Wait a minute,
somewhere,
right,
where we still have a 13-year-old in elementary school, and again, when we talk about accountability, though, and we talk about collaborations in the systems that are in place, where's the parental? Where's the educational? There's a lot of systems that should be making sure that this child is matriculated and not stuck in elementary school at 13 years old.
Or they matriculate because they're not a behavioral problem.
Right.
They matriculate, but they can't read.
There's that.
Right.
That mess. Less than 30% reading proficiency.
Right. So that's what I'm talking about when everybody's lifting. It's not just the DA's office. We're going to have to collaborate with the school system, get back in the school system, tell these kids that scamming is not a job.
I'm telling you.
We're going to have to tell them that because they don't know that.
You see a high rates of these young people getting prosecuted for scamming?
Scamming is a job.
Yeah. Like it's and you know, like I've actually heard young people say to me, like, Miss Jaffe, like, I'm finna, like, and I'm like, no, you can't do that. And they're like, well, it's this easy. Like, look, and I'm like, don't include me. Like, I don't want to hit. And but you have to think about it. This is what they're exposed to. This is what they are seeing. This is what they're hearing. This is how they think they can live these quote unquote lavish lifestyles that they see their favorite entertainers living on TV. And guess what? These folks out here faking the phone.
Yeah.
But they don't have real models like Sister Gibson to be like, oh, well, you know, maybe I want to aspire to be a woman of Zeta Phi Beta or Alpha Kappa Alpha, whoever, you know what I'm saying? But I want to aspire to be better. But no, they want to aspire to be sexy red out here, Tatiana, like, because that's what's hot.
But and another thing that, because I'm so transparent, and I'm a youth pastor, I'm a young adult pastor at my church, but I'm transparent in the fact that I let people know my failures. And people will see you, like the kids will see you and see that, oh my gosh, she's so successful. No, baby, I failed. Not just one time. Several times.
Right.
I was a teenage mom. Yeah. When I graduated from Dougherty Comprehensive High School, yes, I was pregnant. Yeah, I had my baby in November the following year. Could not go to anybody's school. But I made it.
Right. And they have to know that.
Right.
Just because you get pregnant as a teen, or just because you are not reading at what is considered grade level today, doesn't mean that tomorrow, with the work and dedication and like drive and determination, that you can do and be whatever you want to. Just because we are home to the trap doesn't mean you have to be trapped. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but what did you have to help you? What resources, network or connections or luck did you have that plucked you out of that situation?
I think my mentality is different from the youth of today. So many people told me no, and that I couldn't, or that I wouldn't be. That for a long time I was on a mission to prove people wrong, until I realized that I'm not living for them, I'm living for me. That's when I became an adult, you know. But when I got pregnant in high school, I was told, oh, it's it for you. You're not going to play basketball anymore, you know. Yeah, you were a good athlete, but you're not going to get any scholarships. And so my mission was to prove people wrong. This generation they lack the to prove people wrong. Sure, so we have to change our talk to them.
You got to talk to them real soft and baby like.
But you got to think about this though. This generation is different from us because they went through Hurricane Michael, 2 tornadoes, and a whole pandemic.
We went through 2 floods. Goddamn Hurricane Katrina.
No, time out. When we went through the floods, even the flood of 2002. It was 2002. Yeah, it did. Because I remember.
Yeah, it was a light flood.
Because I remember pulling up at Simmons Hall at Auburn State, and the water was coming over the top, and they were still making us go to class. I remember that. But see, you can't do
unsinkable.
Right, unsinkable, baby. But you can't do this.
I was thinking too,
like, to this generation,
how they canceled school.
What with the light rain, man?
Right. But like you say, in 94, 95. Like we was going to school.
I told my husband, I said, these kids will never know the horror of being in the hallway with your hand over their head. They will not know that horror. But they can't experience that because they're not built like us.
Right.
Who fault?
It's our fault.
What happened to No Child Left Behind?
Well, I was gonna say the
13-year-old
should have left them in the hands of people who really don't care.
But we were the generation that said, you know what, we went through all this, but we don't want our children to go through it.
So then we gave them all of the amenities and all of the like
and the internet.
Luxury. Yes, that
gave them unlimited internet.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
and so that's why going back to the statutory rape law, we have 18, 19-year-olds still in high school with these babies.
14, 15-year-olds. So, man.
But we got to listen, when I graduated, we had a 20-year-old and a 21-year-old.
Goodness.
Yeah. We did. So it's not like it hadn't been happening. It's just more frequent.
Right.
And it's more frequent because we don't catch it on the front end.
Yeah. And then again, because of the exposure to the internet, now the younger girls where they were staying innocent and like, boy, you better go on, like back up. Now it's like, oh girl, you seen such and such. Like, so it's like the lines are blurred a whole lot. Whew, this has been an amazing discussion. I know
I've enjoyed myself.
I most definitely learned a lot. And like, I don't know why this 2,500 is stuck in my head. Like, it's just wow to know that we have that many men and women sitting being held, like just waiting on somebody to say, hey, I'm gonna pick you up and actually review your stuff. Like when your face are really in the hands of somebody else, it's like so if you can't do nothing else, people, free your mind. You hear me? Mental health is a real thing. Don't deprive yourself of rest. Get some sleep this month. And always get up, get out, get active, walk, jog, sign up for a kickball team.
Yeah.
Hit up. We ain't got but like 2 bowling alleys. You know, we got Fun Park and then we got AM. Y'all go bowl a little bit, release that tension, throw the ball down the lane and bust them pins wide open. You feel me? And then we are also coming up with more healthy ways to express our stresses. All right. Our people need outlets. We've talked about writing and journaling. We've talked about getting together with family members and doing something in the backyard, listening to music, dancing with your children. Like, there are a lot of ways that we can help to alleviate the day-to-day stressors that we experience as a people that can ultimately prevent us from having to bump into Sister Elizabeth Gibson, you know, in a courtroom. However, if for whatever reason we have to, make sure that you do your research, make sure that you are educating yourself on the laws and policies that affect you in your community. Do know that these things change from city to city, county to county. So make sure that you at least are aware of what laws, regulations, policies affect you here in the good life city of Albany, Georgia. All right. We didn't get into them things. I don't even know if that's her office, but school traffic cameras, you know what I'm saying, and spin out tickets and all of these new black cellular panel cameras that's going up around town. But
Right.
do know the people see what's happening. I don't know if it's a violation of privacy or not, but I feel like it is. So that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. Before we go, Mrs. Gibson, is there any last words, anything that you would like to leave us with?
Well, I would like to first of all thank you for having me. I have enjoyed myself from beginning to end. I'd like to thank everybody that tuned in via Facebook Live, that have dropped their comments in. Make sure that you go vote. You want your voice to be heard. So go and vote. Voting is on May the 21st. That's the election day, but we're still doing early voting until Friday. And just like we gossip about P. Diddy and we gossip about T.D. Jakes and other people, gossip about getting out to vote. Go and tell somebody to go and vote. Take somebody with you. I will be having caravans available if you need any kind of transportation. Inbox me on Facebook. I'm very efficient, so I didn't try to get a campaign headquarters and all this other stuff because that's just too much money. That's wasting time. But if you do need a ride, inbox me and we'll get you to your destination. I would love for you to vote for me, but if you don't vote for me, I just need you to vote. Exercise your right to vote because people die for that. So thank you again for having me. I love you and ain't nothing you can do about it.
That way. Hey, Southwest Georgia 229, all of our listeners everywhere, no matter where you are, whether you're here or internationally abroad, we thank you so much for your time and energy. This has been another dose of Mars Magic brought to you by Voices Radio, where valuable opportunities inspire collaborations to elevate society. Here on your community radio station, WUTU, where we bring you the best in community and old school classics. Make sure you join us next week. The sister Breezy will be in the building and she's going to bring us a musical selection. So y'all make sure y'all tune in. She is one of the members of Lost Gen, and she is still on her search for utopia. So y'all make sure y'all come back and talk a little mental health from the youth's perspective. All right. In the meantime, in between time, we out.